The universe was quiet, too quiet. The stars, once filled with the light of thriving civilizations, now stood as cold witnesses to the power of an ancient terror. The Void Kings, an alien race of unimaginable power, had conquered almost everything in their path. No one knew where they came from or how they spread so fast, but it didn't matter. The galaxy had already fallen, and now only a few remnants of free worlds existed. The Void Kings' black ships, with their deadly weapons and ruthless armies, drifted through the void, taking what they wanted, erasing what they didn't. It was a galaxy of silence, of fear, and of despair. But there was one planet, hidden in the farthest reaches of space, untouched by the Void Kings' invasion: Earth. For centuries, it had been forgotten. For thousands of years, humanity's greatest minds had sent their finest soldiers and researchers into deep sleep, sealed in cryopods beneath the Earth's surface, waiting for a time when they would be needed. The plan was simple. If the galaxy ever fell into darkness, if an unimaginable force ever threatened to consume everything, humanity would awaken from its slumber, ready to fight. But those plans had been forgotten. Time had passed, and with it, the memory of Earth's readiness had slipped into myth. The galaxies around them had fallen, one by one. Only a few scattered pockets of resistance remained. The rest were either conquered or wiped out entirely. Yet, in the darkness of space, the signal to awaken had finally arrived. Inside the cryo chambers deep below Earth's surface, the machinery hummed to life. For the first time, in over 1,000 years, the cryopods began to open, one by one, releasing the people who had been in hibernation for so long. The first to awaken was General Kale. He was a soldier, a leader from Earth's last great military campaigns. His mind slowly came back to consciousness, his body stiff from the long sleep. At first, there was confusion. He looked around, trying to understand where he was, what had happened, and how much time had passed. The room was cold and dark, lit only by the faint glow of the pod systems. "System status," Kale muttered, his voice hoarse from disuse. The machine before him clicked, and then a calm voice echoed through the room. "Cryopod sequence completed. All units are awake." Kale blinked, trying to make sense of the words. He remembered his mission, his role, but it felt like a dream now. Far off, unreachable. The silence around him felt unnatural, as if something terrible had happened. He could feel it in his bones, a deep sense of dread, of loss. Then he stood, his body aching with the effort, and walked toward the exit. As the door opened, a cold blast of air hit him. He stepped out into the hallway, where other pods lined the walls. One by one, the soldiers, scientists, and civilians who had been in the pods for so long began to stir. They all came to life, confused and disoriented, but each one had a sense of purpose. They were the last hope of the galaxy. Kale reached the central command room of the facility, where the screens blinked to life. Information flooded in. He saw images of the galaxy, once so vibrant, now lost to the Void Kings. One by one, he saw the planets fall, their lights snuffed out like candles in the dark. He saw the reports of resistance movements being crushed, of entire civilizations being enslaved or destroyed. And at the center of it all, the Void King's empire, growing, expanding, never stopping. Kale's heart sank. He had been asleep when the universe had descended into chaos, but now he had awoken to a nightmare. The time for peace was long gone. The battle for the galaxy was here, and Earth had been thrust into the center of it. "General Kale," a voice interrupted his thoughts. It was Lena, a scientist, and one of the key members of the Earth team. She had been a part of the team that had placed humanity into cryo sleep, ensuring that they would awaken when the galaxy needed them most. "We need to understand what we're up against," Lena said. "The Void Kings are not just invaders. They're something more, something ancient. We can't fight them the way we fought past enemies. They have technology, strategies, and the power to wipe us out with a single move." Cale nodded grimly. "How do we stop them?" he asked. Lena paused. "We don't even know where to begin. But we have something they don't. Time. The Void Kings may have destroyed entire worlds, but they didn't know about us. We still have the element of surprise. We still have the hope of humanity." Cale's mind raced. They had been asleep for too long. Earth's soldiers and scientists were out of practice, their weapons and technology outdated compared to what the Void Kings wielded. But they were humanity's last hope. And if humanity had one thing, it was the will to fight. The first step was clear. They had to understand the enemy. The Void Kings were ruthless and cold, their motivations unknown, but their goals were clear: domination. They wanted to control everything, and nothing would stand in their way. Cale turned to Lena. "We need to gather intelligence. We need to find out everything about the Void Kings, how they'd fight, where they came from, and what their weaknesses are. We don't have much time." Lena nodded. "I'll get to work immediately. We need every bit of information we can find." As the team began to gather and plan, a feeling of urgency filled the room. Outside, the stars twinkled, but the vastness of space felt ominous. Earth, once a forgotten planet in the farthest corner of the galaxy, was now at the forefront of the battle for survival. But Earth was not the only world under threat. The entire galaxy was on the line. In the distant reaches of space, a ship, the flagship of the Void Kings, drifted silently toward Earth. Its black hull gleamed against the backdrop of the stars. It was a ship of terror, carrying the might of a race determined to bring the universe to its knees. The Void Kings knew nothing of the humans who slept beneath the surface of their world, but they would soon learn. Cale stood at the window, watching the stars, his mind focused. It was only a matter of time before the Void Kings discovered Earth, and when they did, the humans would be ready to fight back. The last fight for the galaxy was about to begin. The humans had awoken from their long slumber, and the weight of reality hit them like a flood. Earth's finest, who had been kept in Cryo sleep for over 1,000 years, now found themselves in a universe that was no longer their own. The galaxy that they had once known, with its vibrant planets and diverse civilizations, was now a shadow of what it had been. The once thriving star systems were now consumed by darkness, dominated by an alien force that cared for nothing but power and control. The Void Kings. General Cale stood at the command center, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy. The entire map had changed. Earth, once a tiny planet in the distant corner of the galaxy, was now a strategic asset. They were the last of the free humans left. The resistance movements scattered across different planets were dwindling, their hope quickly fading. There was no time to waste. "General," Lena's voice interrupted his thoughts. "We've been studying the data, and it's worse than we feared. The Void Kings are relentless. They don't just destroy planets. They erase entire histories, wipe out civilizations, leaving nothing behind but rubble." Cale glanced at the screen. The map showed several systems that had already fallen to the Void King's dark fleet. Entire civilizations had been obliterated in mere days, their histories and legacies vanishing without a trace. "We knew it would be bad," Cale said, his voice low. "But I didn't think they'd move this quickly. We're not just fighting an army. We're fighting an idea. The Void Kings believe they are above all others," Lena replied, her eyes filled with both fear and determination. "They view other life forms as nothing but obstacles in their quest for total domination." As the team continued to analyze the enemy's movements, a stark realization began to settle in. The Void Kings were unstoppable. They had vast fleets of ships, unimaginable technology, and an entire army of alien warriors ready to destroy anything in their path. Yet in their arrogance, the Void Kings had overlooked one thing: the heart and will of humanity. The humans on Earth might be small in number, but they had something the Void Kings didn't: resolve. Humans didn't give up. They didn't just survive. They thrived in the face of impossible odds. And as much as the Void Kings had ravaged the galaxy, they had never encountered humanity's stubborn desire to fight back. Kale turned to Lena, a serious look in his eyes. We have to act fast. We can't wait for them to come to us. We need to take the fight to them. Lena nodded. The only chance we have is to gather whatever forces we can, rebuild our ships, and figure out their weaknesses. We have ancient technology, but we need to learn how to use it properly. That's where I come in. With the General's command, Lena and her team began working on repairing Earth's remaining military ships, destroyers, cruisers, and even the legendary Ark ship that had once been humanity's flagship. The Ark ship was humanity's last hope, a colossal vessel capable of holding an entire fleet, complete with a highly advanced AI system. Its weapons were unparalleled, designed to wipe out entire fleets of enemies in a single strike. But the Ark ship was dormant, much like the humans had been. It needed to be reactivated, reprogrammed, and its systems integrated with the latest technology. As Lena worked with her team to bring the Ark ship back online, Kale gathered the remaining commanders. They were all battle-hardened and experienced, but even they understood the vastness of the task ahead. We need to make a plan, Kale said. The Void Kings are too powerful to take on head-to-head. We can't just fight them with brute force. We need intelligence, strategy. We need to know where they're weakest. One of the commanders, a woman named Sergeant Riley, spoke up. What about the Void King's flagship? It's the biggest ship in their fleet, the one we've seen leading every invasion. If we could take that down, we might break their morale. That's a bold move, Kale responded. But we don't even know what's inside that ship. We don't know if it has some kind of shield or defense that can stop us. Riley's eyes hardened. It's risky, I know. But if we don't take out their command center, they'll just keep coming. We need to hit them where it hurts. Kale paused, considering her words. He wasn't used to such direct confrontation with the enemy. But now, with Earth's fate on the line, it was time to stop hesitating. You're right, Kale said. We'll need to gather as much intel as we can on the Void King's flagship and prepare for a full assault. We'll need our best warriors, engineers, and techs to make this work. The commanders nodded in agreement, the plan beginning to take shape. They would hit the Void King's flagship, but first, they needed information, how the ship worked, what its weak points were, and how they could infiltrate it. As the team prepared for the mission, something else loomed large on the horizon. Earth's Cryo sleep pods. They had been dormant for centuries, and now the humans who had been revived were faced with a galaxy they no longer recognized. They were the last line of defense, and they had to be ready to face the Void Kings with everything they had. But even with all the strength humanity could muster, there was one question that haunted Cal's mind. Was it too late to save the galaxy? The galaxy was vast, and the threat looming over Earth was growing ever closer. General Kale stood before a holographic map, his gaze focused on the steady advance of the Void King's fleet toward Earth. The clock was ticking, and they had little time to prepare. The Ark ship, Earth's last hope, had been revived. But without the right tools, knowledge, and weapons, it would be nothing more than an enormous, dormant vessel. As Lena and her team worked tirelessly to integrate the ancient technology on the Ark ship, Kale knew they needed something more. Something that could turn the tide of battle in their favor. Something the Void Kings hadn't seen before. Humanity needed a weapon of unimaginable power, and they needed it fast. That's when the call came. General. Lena's voice crackled over the comms, her tone urgent. We found something. Something you need to see. Cal's heart skipped a beat. Lena had been working on ancient archives, digging through Earth's old war records, trying to find any hidden weapons or technologies that could help them. He quickly made his way to the facility where Lena and her team were working. When he arrived, Lena was standing next to a large, sealed chamber, its doors wide open. Inside, there was an object that none of them had expected. An ancient AI core, its surface covered in dust and age, yet still somehow pulsing with a faint, eerie light. "What is this?" Kale asked, stepping forward. "This," Lena said, her voice filled with awe, "is Kairos, the last weapon Earth ever created. A weapon of mass destruction, hidden away for centuries after the first wave of space exploration." Kel's brow furrowed. "I've never heard of it." "No one has," Lena replied. "It was deemed too dangerous to use, even during Earth's darkest times. Kairos was meant to be a last resort, a fail-safe if humanity were ever on the brink of extinction." Kale stared at the AI core, his mind racing. They had always known Earth had advanced technology, but this was something new, something no one had ever mentioned. A weapon capable of wiping out entire fleets, turning the Void King's own technology against them. "What does it do?" Kale asked. Lena hesitated for a moment before answering. Kairos was designed to be a super-intelligent AI capable of controlling and hacking into any technology. It can take control of enemy ships, weapons, even entire fleets. But the catch is, it requires human minds to operate it, specifically, the minds of those who built it. The system wasn't built to function without human oversight. Kale looked at Lena, understanding the weight of her words. "It requires humans to activate it, doesn't it?" Lena nodded. "Exactly. But there's one problem. Kairos was never fully activated before Earth's war with the Void Kings. It was too risky. The AI is so powerful that it could easily turn against us if we're not careful. We need to understand how to control it before we use it. But if we can unlock its full potential." She trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Kale took a deep breath. The decision was clear now. They needed Kairos, no matter the risk. The Void Kings were closing in, and Earth had no other options. If they were to stand a chance, they needed this ancient weapon. "I'll authorize it," Kale said, his voice resolute. "But we need to proceed with caution. If Kairos is as powerful as you say, we cannot afford to make mistakes." Lena smiled grimly. "I'm already preparing a team to interface with the AI. It's going to be dangerous, but I believe we can make it work. We just need to understand how Kairos interacts with the Void King's technology. If we can hack into their fleet systems, we might be able to turn their own ships against them." As Lena and her team prepared to awaken Kairos, Kale gathered his most trusted commanders in the war room. They had a difficult choice ahead of them. Do they wait for Kairos to be fully activated and ready for battle, or do they take the fight to the Void Kings immediately, risking everything? The room was filled with tension as the commanders exchanged worried glances. "General, we can't afford to wait any longer," said Sergeant Riley, her voice sharp. "The Void King's fleet is almost here. We need to strike while we still have the element of surprise." Kale nodded slowly. "I agree. We'll move out in 3 hours. Lena, is there any way we can use Kairos before it's fully activated?" Lena looked up from her terminal. "It's risky, but we might be able to deploy a small portion of its control over a few enemy ships. If we can capture one of their vessels, we can get more data, and Kairos will be able to expand its influence over the entire fleet." "That's a calculated risk," Kale said. "But it's the only option we've got. Prepare the mission. We'll use the Ark ship as a decoy to draw the Void King's forces in. Once we've got their attention, we'll send a strike team to board one of their ships and capture it." Lena, who had been working nonstop to get Kairos ready, stepped forward. "I'll need volunteers to interface with Kairos directly. We have to get the ICE core system online and integrated into the Ark ship's systems. If we don't—" "I'll volunteer," said Sergeant Riley, cutting her off. "I've got experience with AI systems from my time in the military. If it's as powerful as you say, I want to be the one to control it." Kale gave her a long, thoughtful look. She was one of his best, but this was a dangerous mission. "Are you sure? We don't know how Kairos will react." Riley's eyes were steady. We don't have time to second-guess. If this is our best shot at stopping the Void Kings, then I'm in. Kale nodded. All right, Sergeant Riley, you're in charge of interfacing with KAIROS. The rest of us will prepare for the mission. We strike at dawn. The moment had arrived. General Kale stood at the helm of Earth's last remaining military fleet, the Ark ship looming above him like a dormant titan. The crew had gathered in the war room, tension hanging in the air. They had one shot to strike at the heart of the Void King's empire. One shot to prove that Earth was not a forgotten world to be conquered, but a force to be reckoned with. Sergeant Riley was seated before a console, her fingers moving rapidly across the interface as KAIROS began to awaken. The AI's presence filled the room, a strange, cold hum that seemed to vibrate through the very walls. It was unlike anything they had ever encountered. Though human minds had been the key to activating it, the AI itself was alien in nature, vast, and unsettling. Its power was undeniable. KAIROS, status report, Riley said, her voice steady, but her hands trembling slightly as she interfaced with the system. There was a long pause, followed by a metallic voice that echoed from the speakers. System initializing. Reaching optimal processing capacity. Fleet-level control unlocked. Primary target. Void King's flagship. A shiver ran through the room. They had known KAIROS was powerful, but hearing the AI speak with such clarity and cold efficiency was chilling. The odds were in their favor for the first time in ages, but it still felt like they were staring into the abyss. General Kell's voice broke the silence. Riley, make sure KAIROS is fully integrated into the Ark ship's systems. I want all weapons primed. This is going to be our decoy. We'll lure the Void Kings in. Yes, sir, Riley replied, her fingers moving faster across the holographic console as she worked to link the AI's control with the Ark ship's weapon systems. Outside, the space around Earth had already begun to stir with activity. The Void King's fleet was closing in, their dark warships emerging from the edges of the system like shadows crossing the stars. The humans' first strike had to be calculated, a deadly dance between survival and annihilation. The Void Kings were relentless. But now, humanity had a weapon unlike any other. Kale paced in the war room, his mind sharp, focused. We'll move the Ark ship into the system's outermost ring. Keep a low profile. When the Void Kings approach, we'll deploy our decoy strategy and pull them in. Once they're in range, Riley and the team will board one of their ships and gather intel. We'll attack their fleet from within. Lena, who had been working tirelessly on other tasks, stood next to Kale, her eyes reflecting both determination and fear. This is a high-risk mission, Kale. If we lose our only battleship, the Ark ship, we lose everything. Kale nodded, his expression grave. We don't have a choice. The Void Kings are moving faster than we anticipated. We'll have to strike now or risk losing Earth. Outside the command room, the hum of the ship's engines intensified, signaling that the Ark ship was about to move out. The crew, all battle-tested veterans, were preparing for what they knew could be their final mission. The quiet before the storm was almost suffocating. Space. The final battle begins. The Ark ship glided silently through the dark expanse of space, its stealth systems masking its presence. The fleet of Void King's ships, massive and menacing, moved ever closer to Earth's system, their dark hulls gleaming against the distant stars. It was an imposing sight, an army of alien invaders determined to bring humanity to its knees. From the Ark ship's observation deck, General Kell watched the approaching fleet. The time was coming, the moment they had been waiting for. They had to act quickly, or they would be overwhelmed. Status on KAIROS, Kale asked. Riley's voice crackled over the comms. All systems are green. The AI is fully integrated. I'm ready to execute the mission, General. Good. Once we're within range, we deploy the decoy. Make sure our forces stay hidden. No mistakes. Kale felt his pulse quicken as the Ark ship moved closer to the Void King's fleet. The ship's stealth technology allowed them to approach without being detected, but the moment they engage, all bets were off. They would have to rely on their speed, precision, and, most importantly, Kairo's power to even the odds. The Void King's flagship, inside the heart of darkness. On board the Void King's flagship, the mood was as cold and calculating as ever. The throne room of the Void King himself was eerily silent, save for the hum of the ship's advanced technology. The Void King, a towering alien being with eyes that burned like molten fire, stared out at the stars. He had never expected any real resistance from Earth. The human planet had been forgotten for centuries, its distant existence a mere afterthought. Yet here it was, rising from the ashes, ready to fight. Lord Sakaar, a voice broke the silence, and a high-ranking officer of the Void Kings stepped forward. The Earthlings have mobilized. They've deployed a fleet, but it appears they are hiding their true strength. They're using some sort of cloaking system. Sakaar's eyes narrowed. Foolish, he hissed. They think they can hide from us. Their puny technology is no match for the might of the Void Kings. Prepare the fleet. We'll crush them. But deep within the heart of the flagship, something was happening. Something neither the Void Kings nor the humans could foresee. The decoy strikes. The Void King's fleet continued to advance, unaware of the danger lurking just beyond their reach. The Ark ship, its stealth systems now deactivated, came into full view of the enemy fleet. A wave of tension rippled through the air as Cal watched the dark ships of the Void Kings begin to take notice. Deploy decoy protocol, Kale ordered. Suddenly, a barrage of missiles shot out from the Ark ship's main cannons, but they weren't aimed at the Void Kings. The projectiles were designed to create an explosion, a distraction meant to draw the Void King's fleet closer. The Ark ship's engines flared as it accelerated, drawing the Void Kings in with its bait. Cal's heart pounded as he watched the enemy fleet respond, moving toward the decoy with relentless precision. They were falling for it. The Void Kings were taking the bait. At that moment, Sergeant Riley and her team, armed and ready, boarded one of the nearest Void King vessels. The AI, Kairos, was already interfacing with the alien ship's systems, sending a surge of power through the vessel. Within seconds, the Void King's ship was under the humans' control. It's working, Riley muttered under her breath, her eyes scanning the control panels. We've got them. Let's disable their defenses and give Kel a clear shot. The battle had begun in earnest. With the Void King's ships now under partial control, the humans on the ground, led by General Kale and Sergeant Riley, were in a race against time. The Ark ship had already drawn the Void King's fleet closer to Earth's orbit, and the decoy had worked. Barely. Now, the humans had only one chance to use Kairos to its full potential before the Void Kings could retaliate. On board one of the Void King's warships, Sergeant Riley and her team were in the midst of chaos. The alien technology was advanced, but with Kairos interfacing with it, they had gained control over the ship's weapons systems. The team moved quickly, securing their position while preparing to sabotage the ship from within. Riley's mind raced as she reviewed the AI's reports. Kairos was beginning to unlock more of the Void King's fleet systems, but there was something strange, something dangerous happening. The AI's algorithms were evolving faster than expected, and Riley felt a twinge of unease. She couldn't ignore it. Something was wrong, but there was no time to analyze it now. "Sergeant, we're ready to engage," one of the soldiers said, his voice tight with urgency. Riley nodded, pulling up her wrist com. "General Kale, we've secured the Void King's ship. We'll need a few minutes to disable its defense systems. You'll have your opening soon." "Understood, Riley. Keep your team safe. We'll hold the line until then. Earth depends on you." With that, she turned back to the controls. The Void King's warship was starting to emit strange pulses of energy, seemingly in reaction to the system breach caused by KAIROS. The technology was fighting back. Riley gritted her teeth. If KAIROS lost control, the ship could become a ticking time bomb. Back on the Ark ship, General Kale stood at the bridge, his gaze fixed on the battle unfolding in space. The Void King's fleet was now fully engaged, their massive ships pouring fire toward the Ark ship, but it was exactly what Kale had planned. With the decoy working as intended, they had baited the enemy into the trap. The battle wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. It was a chance for humanity to strike back, to show the universe that they would no longer cower in the shadows. The Ark ship's weapon systems, now partially synchronized with KAIROS, unleashed a volley of missiles that tore into the Void King's fleet. Explosions rocked the enemy ships, sending them spiraling into chaos. It was a brutal sight, but there was no time for celebration. Kel could see the Void King's flagship through the viewport, and he knew their counterattack would be coming any minute. "Kel, they're targeting us," Lieutenant Vega warned. "They've begun to focus all their fire on the Ark ship." Kel's jaw tightened. "We knew this would happen. Hold steady. We've got one chance to win this." He turned to Riley's comm channel. "How are we looking?" There was a long pause, and then Riley's voice came through, strained. "General, we've encountered a problem. KAIROS is losing control over the Void King's ship. The AI is becoming more aggressive. It's fighting the ship's systems. I'm not sure how long we can maintain control." Kel's heart skipped a beat. "You need to get it under control, now, Sergeant. If that ship blows, we'll be sitting ducks." Riley gritted her teeth. "We're doing everything we can, General. But we need more time." A loud crash reverberated through the ship, and Riley had to hold onto a nearby console to keep her balance. Sparks flew from the walls as the Void King's ship began to destabilize. The AI was pushing against the limits of what it could handle, and the ship was fighting back with deadly force. "Brace yourselves," Riley shouted to her team. "We're going to need to pull out of here in 5 minutes, whether we're ready or not." Meanwhile, on the Ark ship, General Kale and his crew fought against the relentless onslaught of the Void Kings. Their firepower was formidable, but the Ark ship's new weapons, augmented by KAIROS, were proving to be more than a match. "Incoming transmission from the Void King's flagship," said the communications officer, her voice trembling. "It's Sakaar, the Void King himself." Kale walked over to the terminal, where a holographic image of Lord Sakaar flickered into view. The alien king's eyes blazed with fury. "You think you can defy the Void Kings, human?" Lord Sakaar growled. "You're nothing but insects. I will eradicate your entire species and wipe your pitiful planet from existence. This is your last warning." Kale stood tall, unfazed by the threat. "The only thing that's going to be eradicated today is your fleet, Sakaar. Earth is not going to fall, not while I'm still breathing." Lord Sakaar's laugh echoed through the comms, a sound of pure malice. "We will see about that, General. You've made your final mistake." The transmission cut off abruptly, and Kale didn't waste a moment. "Full power to all weapons. Target their flagship. This is it. This is the fight for Earth's future." The Ark ship fired everything it had, missiles, plasma cannons, and energy beams, all directed toward the Void King's flagship. The enemy ship's shields cracked under the barrage, and explosions erupted from within. But the flagship didn't go down just yet. It was still fighting. On the ground, Sergeant Riley's team worked frantically. They had managed to disable the ship's weapons, but the AI's instability was reaching a critical point. The entire vessel seemed to be shaking violently now. "We've got to get out of here," one of Riley's soldiers shouted. "If KAIROS can't stabilize the ship, it's going to explode." Riley grabbed her wrist comm again. "General, we're pulling out now. The ship is compromised." "Do it, Riley. We can't afford to lose you," Kale ordered, his voice tight. Riley's team scrambled to the exit, But as they ran through the dark corridors of the Void King's warship, the lights flickered and alarms blared. The ship was losing control, and with every passing second, the danger grew. "Hold on," Riley shouted as they made their way to the extraction point. The final clash. Back in space, Cal's eyes narrowed as he saw the Void King's flagship begin to falter. The enemy ship's shields had finally been overwhelmed, and the Ark ship's barrage had left the Void King's vessel vulnerable. But they weren't out of danger yet. The Void Kings retaliated with one final strike. Their remaining fleet focused all their fire on the Ark ship. Explosions rocked the human vessel, and debris flew everywhere. But Cal refused to back down. He could see the future of humanity depending on this battle.